This is going to be a look at Demarcus Robinson's biggest and best day as a Raven yet. Of course, we know he played quite well in Tampa Bay on that Thursday night football game, 6 catches, 64 yards on 8 targets. But Sunday against the Panthers, he took it to another level, 9 catches on 9 targets. I mean, you can't get any better than that, right? I guess the only complaint could be why didn't he get 10 or 12 targets, because he was tearing number 24 up. 128 yards, like 14 yards per target. Really, to be honest with you, that's his best game in the NFL dating back to like 2019. He did have 45 catches for the Chiefs in the pandemic year 2020. But if you go back and look at some of those stats, he never had more than 69 yards receiving in any single game. It's not like he didn't have impact. He had 3 or 4 touchdowns that year. Don't get me wrong. I think he actually even took a kickoff to the house, or maybe had one called back in 2020, if memory serves. But he's had impact for the Chiefs. They let him go. Then the Raiders let him go, and we pick him up. I don't know if anyone was expecting something like this. I'll be honest with you, I was not. I did a film study of him when the Ravens picked him up, and I said I thought it was a great pickup, a great piece of a guy who's versatile, a guy who can be used as the X. He can play the Z. I'm sure he's effective in the slot as well. Very savvy. 6'1", he looks bigger to me. He seems like he plays bigger. I'm not saying he plays like a 6'4" receiver who wins a lot of jump balls, but Demarcus Robinson made 2 catches in this game. Well, one, really, that I think is one of the best plays the Ravens have ran this year. I'll highlight it. I think it'll be the next to last play that we show in this video. You know, so far statistically this year, it's not like he's lighting the world up, but 25 catches in 10 games with us. And let's be honest with you, he's had multiple games where he was only targeted 1, 2, or 3 times. If given more opportunities, I think this guy will produce more. Am I saying that he can give us 100-yard games every week? No. But I think if we were to go back and replay the entire 17-game season and Demarcus Robinson gets 8 targets per game, I think it's entirely possible that he could give us 5 or 600-yard games over the course of that 17-game season. Hopefully that makes sense. I'm a big fan, especially after watching the way he played the other day. We're going to go through all 9 of his catches. Of course, these are the only 9 times he was targeted. And let's get this out of the way. Number one, Lamar threw the ball spectacular. I think we knew that he threw the ball very well live, especially after the first half. I think he was 14 of 19 in the first half, and 3 of those were out-and-out drops. And then there was another drop by Ricard, I think, on the second play that I don't believe actually ended up counting as a drop because the play, I think, got brought back for a penalty. Illegal lineman downfield. Lamar threw the ball even better when you watch the all-22 and the end zone. The yards don't show it, and this. If there's fans of other teams that are haters that watch the video, they'll of course criticize me for saying this, but this is one of the better throwing performances that I've seen by a quarterback this year in terms of the timing, in terms of where he chose to go with the football when given routes on one side of the field that's one concept and routes on the other side of the field that's a separate concept, and he could choose. It seemed to me he was always choosing correctly, and I think Demarcus Robinson was a big part of that. Point number 2 to get out of the way, let's just say it. We should have thrown the ball more. It certainly looks like it. Now, I know that there's been games, and I probably sound like a hypocrite, there's been games where I'm like, we need to run the ball more. And then now this is like the second time this year I've said we need to throw the ball more. I think it's just recognizing during the game what's working. And I don't know how the Ravens keep track of that. I don't know whose job it is to chart, yards per play on pass concepts, run concepts, yards per play on 3-step versus 5-step concepts. But in my opinion, we left, I would guess, 70 to 80 yards out there. Well, we had some drops, at least 3 or 4 drops. I remember 4. Other people have stated that they remember 6. I don't remember 6. But in any case, we definitely left yards out there between the drops and then having difficulty running the football consistently and not getting more passes generated just by play call. So let's look at some of the film here. I do have some notes for the first 8 plays. This is going to be a slant or a skinny post versus 2 read. This coverage never gets Lamar. The Steelers run it a lot. All right, this is the one. This coverage is what the Steelers used to get a pick 6 on RG3 by Joe Hayden. in 2020 when Lamar didn't play. So we're talking about like a skinny post that's actually not drawn perfectly well. And then a little out by number 2, which I think is likely. And this corner, Horn, and this safety are both reading 2. So when 2 goes out, the corner's going to take that over. It's just 2 read. It's a half field coverage call. They're not playing 2 read to the top side, just so you know. And then because you get an out, a stop by 1, and a slot fade by 2, which is Duve. And Duve was actually open a little bit more than people think in this game. But in any case, back to the side of the field, there's the corner checking up on the out by Likely. And the safety's got to play over the top of 1. So he's thinking he's getting 1 on a vertical. So he's pressing a little bit more horizontal. And instead, it's a slant or a skinny post. Robinson cuts it underneath. They're lucky this one didn't hit bigger, to be honest with you. This is the second time this game, well, there's twice this game, where the backside safety basically saves a touchdown by being involved in a catch by Demarcus Robinson. You guys know the other one that I'm talking about. We'll show it later. I don't fault Demarcus Robinson at all for the path that he took. All right, the second one is I think it's a 3rd and 13. It's a speed out versus basically cover 4. The Panthers are a little late getting some of their coverage stuff set up. And the announcers, I think it was Mark Sanchez, did a great job of covering this and saying Demarcus Robinson is very adept at getting the first down when it looks like he doesn't have it. Stretching the football out, you can see here, to get the first down on what, like I said, is a 3rd and 13. Lamar is quick with this. Look at how precise the throw is, quick the decision is. He clearly did a lot of film study, he being Lamar, and the coaches and the receivers, on understanding what coverage the Panthers are going to be playing in certain positions of the field. Now, I know that the coaches, can speak to him in the headset prior to us getting to the line of scrimmage. I think that cuts off at like 15 seconds or 18 seconds before the ball is snapped, or maybe it cuts off as we're approaching the line of scrimmage. I don't pretend to know, to be honest with you. But to me, Lamar had a great handle on the coverages that the Panthers were playing. I think the interception was his only possibly bad decision of the game, to be honest with you. I'm not sure if that one's even included in this set of clips. All right, third one is going to be an interesting snag concept. I can't lie, I'm not a huge fan of this one in terms of the concept, but it does work. And I think, I'll try to highlight Demarcus Robinson the most. So you're getting, I guess you'd call it a stop. Some people call it a snag, whatever. Ricard out into the flats. And then the route that, to me, is usually a little higher is Oliver's route. So there's just not a whole lot of clear space between those two. But the way that this works, Robinson is trying to get, it's this guy. Robinson's trying to get behind that guy, what ends up being the flat defender. He's got to get behind him to put him in conflict. So that's where the curl or the snag or whatever you want to call it happens. Ricard running out in the flats, pulls this defender out and clears that lane for Lamar to throw it. Just quick decision. And Oliver is doing a good job by getting to the linebacker. Don't get me wrong. He's taught to get to the outside shoulder of the linebacker. So I think a lot of us are going to complain, like, why are the routes so close together? I believe that Oliver is taught to get to the outside shoulder of this linebacker. So consequently, as that linebacker expands, Oliver, is expanding as well to get to that outside shoulder. And that's why those routes end up looking so close together. Normally, you get about a 3-yard separation between the two horizontally. Demarcus Robinson has a tighter split. It's a great concept. Don't get me wrong. I'm not a huge fan of it with the snag, but it does work. We ran that exact play against the Broncos last year in 2021, and I want to say maybe against the Colts at home a week later, and it worked in both cases. All right, so the fourth one is a quick out versus off coverage again. It's a 2nd and 7. A couple of things to mention here. The leverage of the defenders. I mean, first of all, Robinson is just smooth. He's only 28 years old, guys. I think a lot of us, myself included, kind of look at him as a guy who's like 31. I don't know what you think. Should the Ravens, I don't even know what his contract situation is. Should the Ravens keep him around? Should we re-sign him? Let's say he's only signed for this year. I'm speculating here because I don't pretend to know. If he's only signed for this year, should the Ravens go ahead and pick up next year? I kind of think they should. To me, he seems like a guy who's capable when called upon, even if he hasn't been called on for 3 weeks. Meaning, if he's only getting 2 or 3 targets for like 3 weeks in a row, in that fourth week, if we need him, he seems like someone who can answer the call. All right, so check out the leverage that they're playing with on Andrews. Why? Because most of Andrews' routes are, like this. Sometimes he sits it down in the middle. I understand that sometimes you get this route. I feel like that route, that deeper out to Andrews, is something we got to start hitting more often when we're getting this type of leverage. I wouldn't be averse to us, screening it out to Andrews, to be honest with you, if we get this kind of leverage. But in any case, it's a 2nd and 7, little quick out to Robinson, picks up another first down. Did he have 6 first down catches? I didn't look at the stats to track it, to be honest with you. All right, fifth one. This is a sticks off coverage, I believe. I think that's Robinson up at the top. And Burns is going to get a free rush on this. This is the double pump by Lamar. He double pumped on that 2 read earlier, but he doesn't fall for that. And they're getting this Frankie Lavu, this hybrid inside linebacker, outside linebacker, getting him expanding a little bit. And he's just reading Lamar's eyes. And Lamar pump fakes him, gets him moving further towards the sideline, further towards the top side of the field, and boom, hits Demarcus Robinson. This is the DB who prevents a touchdown, and this is the reason why Demarcus Robinson peels it back to the guy that made the tackle. I know that there's people. I saw a couple of people mention like, "Hey, why is he bringing it back to the corner that he just beat?" Well, because he feels like if he goes in this angle, that 24 is going to be there. So he's bringing it back to the top side some, and the guy he just beat makes the tackle. I understand that people, want to be critical because we want to see a big play busted. We want to see Lamar get credit for the quality of play that he showed on Sunday in terms of a touchdown, in terms of a big play. Back here to the bottom side of the field for a moment, and I have missed highlighting Duve once earlier when he was open. This is it looks like another example of like a slot fade. And I think we've got to throw this eventually. Now we've got a running back down here, Drake, who's running basically, this is looking like, essentially smash, if you ask me. And then Andrew's running some kind of in-breaking route. To me, at some point, we got to throw this to Duve when we think we've got this kind of cover 2 look down here to the bottom side of the field. Or it's not really cover 2. To me, it's just man. But this guy, Woods, the safety, is just staying on top of Drake. He understands it's a running back. It's probably not going to be targeted on a 5 or 7 yard stop by Lamar. As it was, great throw by Lamar, getting the ball to Robinson against a stick blitz coverage. Let me peel back here. Morgan Moses got a lot of crap from the play where Lamar got sacked and then rolled up into Stanley. Well, watch this. Same thing happens to Ronnie Stanley on the other side, guys. It happens when people put 6 men on the line of scrimmage. Sometimes you get a free rusher. In my opinion, this happens too much to the Ravens, though. But that's Burns, the guy who has 7 sacks. Well, now 8. And that's Ronnie Stanley, one of the best tackles in the world, taking the inside rusher, the same thing Morgan Moses did on the other side. This is what we do, guys. The inside linebacker, in this case Thompson, is just trying to occupy Stanley. And then what that does is it just allows Burns a free rush. It doesn't always work out like that. Something was amiss on this play in our protection scheme. And then again later on when Moses blocked the inside rusher or inside blitzer, and the edge guy was able to tackle Lamar or sack Lamar, who then rolled into Stanley. So it happened twice. It wasn't just Morgan Moses' fault. Because if it was, then you got to have the same vitriol directed at Ronnie Stanley for the play that I just showed you. And most people aren't willing to do that. That's hypocritical. It really isn't on Morgan Moses or Ronnie Stanley completely. It's on the whole offensive line and Lamar to get the protection right, all of them. And I don't know whose fault it was specifically on those plays. I just know it wasn't only Morgan Moses' fault. It wasn't only Ronnie Stanley's fault. All right, the next one is probably my favorite. Well, I should say my second favorite route that he ran. It's a double move versus off coverage. Going to talk about the leverage down at the bottom side of the field in a moment with Duve. But I love what he's doing here. Robinson does a great job of selling the initial route, I think. Trying to bring this back, putting his right foot in the ground, Everything to me seems very well coordinated against off coverage or zone for Robinson. I'm not saying he can't beat press man. I'm just saying relatively it seems like a strength for him against off coverage or zone. He's very smart about knowing where to fit, knowing how to sell the initial route. And that is a huge amount of separation. When Lamar on Sunday got this kind of time in the pocket, he was devastating. One more comment here, and this is about Duve a little bit. Watch the leverage that this corner Horn takes on Duve's route. I wonder if Duve's route tree doesn't include a lot of like in-breaking routes and post routes, kind of like that one there, and not enough out-breaking routes. Because the leverage that Horn is taking here, clearly he's getting to the inside of Duve as this route develops further down the field. I would be interested, and I don't know, I'm speculating, if there's enough of these routes in Duve's route tree to put a little bit more doubt in those corners' minds. Not saying that Duve is open here by any means. I think Horn is in position to make any kind of play on that late developing post. I would just like to see the route tree, and I'm not sure how to track it, to be honest with you. Watch the job that we do up front. I think we chip Burns with Ricard, and then he slides out into the flats, and that just helps Ronnie Stanley out. If Stanley's out for any extended period of time, we're going to have to do this more often, whether it's for Macari or for Lele. But look at that pocket. If Lamar gets this kind of pocket, I anticipate he'll be able to make all of these throws. Now, this is going to be kind of fuzzy here. It's not, it's a video, and I'm pausing it. So, but you see, fantastic job of Demarcus Robinson getting his feet in bounds. He's a real professional wide receiver. I was trying to think of a cool name for this video title. I looked up his nickname from college. Apparently someone nicknamed him Honey Thunder because he used to have like that little, I think a Wiz Khalifa or whatever, like little gold streak in his hair. I don't remember that, to be honest with you. Just thought it was funny. This is unique on multiple levels. So first of all, the throw by Lamar. I mean, guys, he put that. Maybe when I saw this, it's almost cut off for you guys. When I did my reaction video Sunday, I thought Lamar threw it a little bit closer to the out of bounds line. I thought it was more away from the defender than this is, but this is pretty damn good by Lamar, and it's pretty good by Robinson to hold on to the ball. You can see the DB is challenging it, and he's got to try to get his foot in bounds. Let me slow the speed down some so we can see this play and hopefully appreciate it a little bit more. The wizard ball handling by Lamar helps influence Brian Burns to run down the line. He's unblocked. We are faking quarterback power is what we're doing. Look at the punch by this corner. I mean, that is a difficult catch. That's the degree of difficulty to things in the NFL. And when you get the All-22, you'll see the separation that was there. This is one of those things that's a little annoying about the way we as fans evaluate players sometimes. Like, oh, there's no separation there. Well, no, not when the catch is made. But when you see the All-22 and you see how it opened up, there's a hell of a lot of separation. Okay, we're a little bit too predictable with personnel. If this was Mike Davis here for Drake, and this was Ricard, this is QB power read. We're trying to fake QB power read by pulling the right guard and then running Duve across Lamar's face. But the problem is Drake is going in the opposite direction. I'm not saying anybody messed anything up. I'm saying we're trying to tell these guys pre-snap it might be QB power read. So you should be worrying about, meaning you, the defense, should be worrying about the sweep to Duve or Lamar riding it, keeping it, and then hitting off tackle. So that's how we get away with leaving him unblocked. He's thinking, I got to chase this down from behind. Then he sees Drake running at him, he being Burns. He sees Drake running at him and veers off to Lamar. That's how we get away with leaving him unblocked. So this is a counter play, not counter scheme, but it's a counter or complementary play to QB power with Duve in motion. Now we're coming backside to the X. So this is a good thing. The Panthers played it well, don't get me wrong. and the DB competed. I would just like to see us do this with Davis and Ricard on the field, so we're not giving away the play depending on the personnel that we have out there. Because I feel like I'm qualified to say this given the amount of Ravens film that I watch and and what the database entails in terms of being predictable. All right, so this is the all 22 view of the same play. Again, I think this is one of the best plays of the year in terms of our execution, Lamar's throw. Lamar's dealing with an unblocked, high-level edge defender. Here, check the separation, guys. I mean, looks pretty damn good, right? If someone was to be super critical and take a screenshot, like you've all seen those people try to analyze stuff based on a screenshot, where's the separation? The receivers don't get any separation. Maybe the ball could be thrown a little earlier. That's too harsh a judgment by me saying that. Lamar's waiting to see that where Demarcus Robinson's going to bring this back to the sideline. This is a great play. I think we've got to run this play more and use the running back to lead out here, meaning Drake or Davis for Duve, and then maybe even come back to that as a late screen option. Unbelievable catch, if you ask me. Clutch on a 3rd and 1. Because 3rd and 1, 3rd and 2, that's our QB power read play. That's our situation where we're normally calling QB power read or QB counter read. Okay, last play I'm going to show you. I love this one too. This is 3rd and 14, I think, and we're trying to get Stover. God, that's the second time this year I did that. We're trying to get Tucker a little closer for the field goal. Obviously, we love Duve on these screens, but Demarcus Robinson is showing the ability to make people miss. And one of the things that's beautiful about this too is we're using 2 tight ends, Likely and Andrews, to block out here. I'd like to see us do this out of 22 personnel for real. Now, we're doing this out of 02 personnel. That's Prochet. That's Duve. And there's a tight end, Likely, tight end, Andrews, and a receiver. There's no running back on the field. So this is 02. 0 running backs, 2 tight ends. I'd like to see us do this with Ricard here and Duve there. And then the same 3 guys down here. So I guess technically that'd be 12 personnel, right? Ricard would be the only running back on the field. Why? Why am I saying that? Because it makes the defense see Ricard and Duve down here and think, oh, well, that might be a screen down to the bottom side because Ricard is one of their blockers. Now, if they keep 3 over 2, okay, then don't throw it down there, right? This is just sheer numbers. This guy right here seems capable of getting 6, 8, 10 yards every time on this concept. I feel like we got to run this play more. This is 3 on 2 right now from the bottom of the numbers to the sideline. He's just good at making people miss. I know they lift him up and then they slam him like some WWE stuff. I understand. I thought that was a great play call. It turned 3rd and 14 into 4th and 4. I think we've got to do some of this and then use the fake screen and run the tight end up the sideline at some point. Those things are available. I feel like the pass game was the way to bend and break this Carolina defense. I'm not saying that our coaches didn't identify it. I really don't care to pass judgment on it. All I know is Lamar threw the ball great. He has a great connection with Demarcus Robinson, it seems like. Demarcus Robinson knows what he's doing. And I read and listened to a couple of interviews this morning that he had given earlier in the year. I think when we went down to Tampa, he gave an interview to a Florida-based news service because he played college at Florida, and he just sounds very classy and very professional. They had asked him about playing for 2 great quarterbacks in Patrick Mahomes and Lamar Jackson. What was the difference? And he just was like, "There's not really much. They know the assignments. They deliver the football. It's my job to get open and catch the football." He just sounded like such a professional to me. I don't really know a whole lot about him, like his background, his history, other than he played at Florida, other than the way he left to go to the NFL draft was kind of weird. I think one of his coaches actually announced it in a midweek interview, which is kind of crazy. But again, I only listened to one interview of him explaining that situation, so I don't know all the backstory. Kind of crazy, especially being a coach myself. Like that's not something that I would want to put out there for a kid or a player, But in any case, man, a great game by Demarcus Robinson. Do you think he can do this again? Do you think he can give us another 100-yard catch game, 100-yard receiving game this year? I think he can. I do, if he's given opportunities. This offense kind of reminds me of our defense in a lot of ways, guys. There's so many people who can have an impact. One week it's Likely. One week it's Kenyon Drake. One week it's Demarcus Robinson. And we haven't had a real huge impact from Mark Andrews lately, have we? I think the other day he had 6 catches, I believe. Looking at the stats right now. I think he had 6 catches. Six catches for 63 yards. Longest catch was 16 yards. I don't know about you. I'd like to see that trend continue in terms of Andrews' usage, especially when he's not 100%. Doesn't look like he's 100% to me right now. You guys let me know what you think. Is it other guys who need to step up a little bit? Yeah. The Proches, the Josh Olivers, those guys, they need to give us a little bit more sometimes, no doubt. But it seems like they do. It seems like once every 2 or 3 weeks, one of those types of guys gives us a 3 or 4 catch, 45-yard performance. Prochet, I thought, played really well against Tampa Bay and the Saints. Oliver, I think, has really played exceptionally well this year. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when Charlie Kolar is active. What are we going to do with Josh Oliver, and then what are we going to do with Nick Boyle? All right, let me know what you guys think of Demarcus Robinson's play, if you're as impressed as I was with his play in Week 11. I think we need guys like this to give us an impact. Once every 2, 3, 4 weeks, give us this type of game, and that can keep this offense, ahead of the game, hopefully, as we get to the back end of this schedule and hopefully stack together a whole bunch of wins. I'll be honest with you, this Jaguars game on the road is going to be a difficult prospect, for real. I think they're very talented, very fast on defense. I think they're talented on offense. I think they've got a good thing going. And their head coach has a history of using RPOs, screens, a lot of quick game stuff to get the ball in the hands of athletes out in space. I think we need to do a little bit more of that ourselves, to be honest with you, with Demarcus Robinson, with Duve. Even Andrews on screens is pretty badass, up the right sideline especially. Let me know what you think of Demarcus Robinson's play so far this year with the Ravens, how he played in Week 11, and then what you think of my breakdown if I missed any elements or there was anything I neglected to talk about. Thank you, guys. Appreciate your time.